News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth, darkhookmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, wishing you all a very, very, very happy belated National Badger Day.
Well,
yes.
Okay, Allan, you know a little something about this right now. What's the difference between a badger and a honey badger? The honey badger's the
besides
really mean
Africa and the rest of the world.
Okay, yeah.
I heard that the Guinness World Record named them one of the most fearless animals out there because they were willing to take out some pretty big predators.
Badgers are tough. You do not mess with a badger. Max, keep that in mind, too, if you ever encounter one.
Well, I find it very funny that if you've ever seen a European badger, like a British badger,
yeah,
they're just wandering around people's backyards. I mean, they just kind of go.
They're not big, right? How big?
Oh no, they're big. Oh no, they're big.
Are they?
But they're so polite. They're just well mannered.
Really?
They're still a badger. Don't get me wrong.
Until you tick them off.
But
right?
But they'll just be like walking through the backyard. Hello, how are you doing? You get an American badger, and this dude is like, out of his mind.
Yeah, they're like the Tasmanian devil or something. That's a good one, Max. I hope people will weigh in on that. Badgers are they're an animal we don't talk about as much as we need to.
And they're exceedingly cool little critter, man. They are a whole lot of attitude packed in a small package.
Okay. Well, speaking of attitudes packed in a small package, well, shoot, I didn't have a good segue for that. If you want to let us know how you're celebrating International Badger Day, you can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And the question on every listener's mind, of course, is has Allan ever eaten a badger? And what's the best way to roast them? So, okay.
No.
Has Allan ever fed a badger?
Yes. Fed, petted, played with. Yes. Raised.
You haven't fooded, though.
Yeah. No.
You've never plated a badger.
Its name was Bob. It was an animal rehab thing.
Okay. Hey, and get involved with us on social media. You can head on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. I've already made one post. I'm going to make one at the break about Allan's week in review because it's pretty funny. It has to be seen to believe. I can't believe you had to deal with this week.
It was amazing. We'll leave it at that.
And you can watch the show at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. The studio cams are on, and Max told me that we're also on X.
Awesome.
I don't remember what the address is, Max. I guess it's the News Talk 98.9 The Roar. Well, that's a long X address, isn't it? I'll have to ask Ditch at the break, but you'll find us. Just check it out.
Yep.
Either way, we're all over the social medias today. So, well, this is going to be interesting. There's sort of an auspicious, is that the right word? Anniversary tomorrow. It is the anniversary of the beginning of the Great Fire of 1871 in Chicago. It went for 2 days, so
yes,
it goes from October 8th to October 10th.
Was that what U2 named their album about, the unforgettable fire, or is that something else?
I don't know. That's a good question.
We'll
doubt
have to get Bono on the phone and find out.
Yeah, call Bono at the break. So, but we're not celebrating the destruction. What we're celebrating is the rebuilding efforts.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to talk about the destruction naturally, but I heard one writer put it. They said of all the cities in America that should have been renamed Phoenix because it really literally rose from the ashes.
Indeed.
And they were a better city for it. I mean, there was a lot of suffering. Obviously, it was a lot of destruction, but in the end, with the rebuilding efforts, they came back stronger and bigger than ever. So, well, no, I don't want to give any spoilers. That's going to be an interesting discussion. And in honor of that, we're going to have kind of an extended conversation about modern safety measures you can take in your home and maybe some modern safety features when it comes to fire prevention that you're dealing with yourself, right?
Quite a bit.
So, and then let's see. We've got, if we get to it, we have a historically terrible that I'm not going to tease just in case we don't get to it. So we've got our must-have item of the week. Allan's week in review is shaping up to be something pretty interesting too. And like I said, we would love to hear from you and find out what's going on in your life with home improvement. So.
I didn't get Bono on the line, but I thought I'd let you know the unforgettable fire was actually related to Chicago in some way, because they went to the Chicago Peace Museum on their tour in 1983, and they looked at images in the exhibit about the Hiroshima bombing.
Really? Interesting. So, well, I could tell you this. I didn't I didn't mean to turn this, and you brought it up, Max. But back in the day, Allan, I saw U2 was one of my favorite bands back in. I don't know if you remember back in the '80s when they were on the cover of Time magazine after the Joshua Tree. That's when they just blew up, and they were like the world's biggest band. Well, I saw them twice in Chicago a week after that came out. And they were talking about how much they loved Chicago. So they must have some connections to that. They love Memphis too. I mean, of course, they recorded music here at Sun Studios. So yeah, good old Bono and The Edge. Well, everybody, I love that band. But let's see, where was I? Oh, okay. We had some listener participation things out on the table, if you remember, and we're gonna leave this out there for you. For one thing, we were talking about high impact home improvements, and there was one that I heard about that I wanted to bring up because we got a little feedback on this stuff, you guys. And so one of them, if you've got something in your home that maybe was not wasn't necessarily expensive, but it's one of those things where people walk in and they all compliment you on it, or it's something very noteworthy, and it makes, like we said, a high impact statement. And one of those was cool. I guess, for lack of a better term, you would call these cool fireplace accents. You know what I mean by that? Like a cool fireplace mantle, or maybe like our fireplace, we have it sort of wraps around a wall. It like protrudes. Okay. And you could very easily just paint. In fact, my wife wants to do this. She wants to paint that wall black with some kind of cool thing. But fireplaces are a good place to really make a statement, I think. What do you think?
It's a centerpiece. So as far as painting things black in the home, the first time you hear about somebody doing that, you usually have kind of a knee jerk of, oh my goodness, what are you thinking?
Right.
But you have to think of it kind of, as I tell everybody, you have to think of decorating like a pizza. You're gonna do it in layers.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, and plus, whatever you put it, you got to think about what you're going to put against it.
Exactly.
And it might
each layer
pop really
coming
good
out towards your eye.
Yeah.
And it makes it work.
I would say that's a really good high impact home improvement. And do it carefully, but I mean, it's not going to cost you much. And sometimes too, like I said, just you can get maybe one of those live edge fireplace mantles or some fireplace screen. So that's out on the table. We have it all, out on the table for you today. But I'm really eager about the discussion when we come back, because we're going to hear all about Allan's week in review, from septic tanks to fence post overkill. How's that for a tease?
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
How tough am I? How tough am I? I had a bowl of nails for breakfast this morning.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Well, and your point was, I mean, high in iron, right, Allan? And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go digital. Check us out on the social medias. We're on X today. Apparently, the News Talk 98.9 The Roar X page, which I don't know what that address is. Max, you'll have to find out. Get Ditch on the phone. But also, you can watch us on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. And it looks pretty good in here. The lighting's looking good. The studio looks good. We don't look good, but everything else does. So, and then head on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and like the page, share the page, and check out the posts going on over there. So,
and the best part is they can also take us with you.
Talk to me.
All they got to do is pop over to Spotify and or YouTube and check out the Tool Talk Radio podcast. And they can go to tooltalkradio.com to click on the easy access buttons.
That's the one-stop shop.
It is.
And there's other things on too. We don't
there's
really
a lot
even
of stuff
showcase
on that.
that.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of stuff on that website.
And if you really, because if you want to kind of get a handle on the history, just start scrolling through. And like you said, there's years of
content up there.
In a minute, we are going to hear about what Allan did this week. But Max, off air, we were talking about high impact, cool accoutrements or accents you can do for your home, high impact home improvements. But speaking of high impact, you said that this is Croctober.
Among other holidays in the season of October. And apparently, Croc has a very interesting announcement.
Now, this is Croc, the shoe company, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it's Crocs, not to nitpick. But
Yeah, it's Crocs, but
the
it's
ugliest
Croctober.
shoes ever made.
Hey, but they're very functional.
Okay.
I attest because I have a pair.
Send your hate mail to me. I don't care. They're hideous. But go ahead, Max. So.
But anyways, Croc decided that they are announcing the release of cowboy boots.
Wow.
Now there's a statement piece.
And they even have spurs on them.
Are they made of?
Oh, no.
What are they made of? Are they that same rubber like you hose it off?
It
And
looks like also like maybe artificial like crocodile or whatever too, like croc skin. Like it has holes at the bottom, and the crocodile has a cowboy hat on it.
now, Allan. You're from West Texas. What happens when a couple of good old boys are out on the ranch and they show up wearing a pair of these? Are they going to
The
be
cows are going to
ridiculed?
start laughing.
Okay.
The coyote is going to be beside himself.
I mean, I'm thinking all these tough guys sitting around the campfire in the middle of the desert, and they're wearing these. I don't know, man.
I'm modestly horrified. However, I would try a pair on just to see how comfortable they are.
That reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where Homer's trying to act all tough in front of like these Western guys, like, "Oh, well, pardon me, Mr. Gucci loafers."
No, you know what it reminds me of? You remember the Dick Van Dyke Show when he bought a motorcycle, but it was like this little kind of nothing motorcycle.
Oh,
and
he
they
got
picked-
like a little mini thing.
And
yeah.
he pulled up to the motorcycle gang, and they like picked it up. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you have fun out there, Max, with your cowboy boot Crocs.
Oh, I never said I'm going to have fun.
Okay. Hey, if you're out there and you would wear cowboy boot Crocs, they are kind of cute for kids. Okay, I don't mind kids wearing Crocs.
I mean, I'm
That's
just
functional.
morbidly curious. I would try a pair on. I'm gonna leave it at that.
I mean, I wear those as like dojo shoes around the dojo because they're nice and versatile.
Okay, and maybe I know people love them because obviously they sell. And so, like I said, you can send your hate mail directly to me. I'll take the hit. So, all right. Well, Max, we skipped it last week, so we got to get to it this week. Let's go.
Oh, the humanity.
So, Allan, this is a wide-ranging. Do we have time in the show to get to all this? You were telling me we're going from septic tanks to toilets to fence post overkill.
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
It's one of those things everybody looks at and goes, "You know how to put in a toilet?" I'm like, yeah, I've put in a few thousand of those.
Right.
Okay, great. We got this toilet needs to go in. All right, no problem. I get there and literally it is the PVC pipe sticking out of the floor by like 4 feet. I mean,
So it wasn't a matter of like, okay, you slip it on, tighten the bolts, and
this
you're
wasn't
done.
like put a new wax ring on it and drop it on. This was like, oh, you have a PVC post sticking out of the floor. So I was like, oh, okay,
the
here we
ultimate
go.
undersell. So,
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, that's what I get for not asking too many questions. So
that's a lesson to you up and coming contractors. Ask questions, get specifics, and
ask
send
questions,
for pictures.
ask for pictures.
Right, get pictures. So, well, that
So-
sounds fun. So you showed up thinking you had about an hour's work ahead of you, and instead,
I had about an hour and a half. So
Yeah.
So now I'm
Okay.
down there measuring the floor, making sure I get the height right. Happily, they had all the parts. So
okay,
yeah.
all right.
So the good news was everything was there. And the bad news was that, well, wow, there's a pipe sticking out of the floor 4 feet. So happily crawled underneath. All of that was secured like it was supposed to be. So, and that is a really huge point here.
Yeah.
For the guy, when you're doing this stuff, and I will make this statement, I've made it to any number of clients. There is no law that says you can't overbuild.
Oh yeah, yeah. You
If
should build this thing with the idea that you want it to be here 100 years from now.
You know, I have a tendency to build things where I'm snickering, going, I can't wait for the next dummy to come behind me 30 years from now and look at this and go, did you really have to use all 6?
Right.
Did you really have to?
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be cursing your name.
Oh, yeah, because I don't want it to budge until the next person comes along to remodel, and then they got to move it.
Well, this is a good, actually, instructional thing. I can't say I've ever done that. I've changed toilets, not nearly as many as you, but when the PVC is sticking out, so I'm assuming you have to cut it to the right level. You slip the kind of the
and then
the
you put the
attachment
mount.
ring.
Right. There's a mount that goes on top of that the toilet actually attaches to.
Is that glued in? Like, how is that attached?
Generally not. It is a really tight fit. You kind of tap it in with a plastic hammer. And you can secure them in that way, but you can glue them. I know some people that do. I prefer not to because, especially on the initial fit in.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is over time, that plastic that you mount things to, if it's not done exactly right the first time, eventually is going to crack.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
And then you're going to have.
You need a little flexibility down there.
Yeah, and then you got to put the little metal cap on top of it that replaces the holes and that kind of stuff. So, happily to say, this went in without a hitch. Got it all measured out right the first time. Dropped the little cover in it, tapped it in, and I got to admit, I like the new mounts and stuff they're using as opposed to what we started with 30, 40 years ago.
I was going to say, because now that you're saying that, I can't remember. It was within the last year I had to change a toilet, and I don't do that all the time. But when I went over there, I was like, wow, there are so many more options than we had before, and they were much easier, less messy. And it seemed to me they made a better seal and everything.
They did.
Too.
They did. So, I mean, this thing installed pretty quick and easy. But, I mean, the number one thing here is your level is your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Because you really want to make sure you get your toilet installed level. Now, there's a little bit of a cheat here. So, if you are changing out a toilet, break out the level and go around it and see what you're getting into for the new toilet.
That makes sense. Yep.
Because, well, if you need to build up a little something or you need to shim a little something, let's do it now so we don't have the infamous rocking toilet for the next 20 years.
Which will rock, leak, and crack.
Eventually crack that plastic.
Yeah, porcelain doesn't bend.
No, porcelain has no sense of humor at all.
Right, yeah.
Past that same job ended up looking at another side where they're completely stripped everything down to the studs, and it is now time to slap that insulation back up there.
Okay.
So, hello to the R30 going in the attic, and we finally got the right size delivered. And I'd like to point out that there is a not brand new tool on the table, but it's really nice.
Okay.
And that is the new Joe, you recently converted to battery power.
Yeah.
There is now the battery-powered electric T50 stapler.
Well, we talked about that. Yeah.
And,
I mean, I'm a fan as long as you realize this thing is not a finesse tool. It leaves marks.
Oh, no. There is a new finesse one.
Oh, is it?
There is a much lighter duty one designed to do specifically this.
Okay.
And it just, man, it made putting that stuff up easy.
Well, now the staplers, I mean, the staples for insulation are wider than what I was doing.
Yes.
The ones I was doing was like
Yeah, you're doing the brads.
gap. So
You're firing the brads in.
What sort of caliber ammunition are we talking here?
Just T50 staples. So it went very smooth, very fast, very easy. So thank you, all of the tool companies out there embracing batteries. Thank you for a great tool.
This is going to carry on past the break because you had sort of an epic. Well, actually, this is Allan's 2 weeks in review.
Yeah.
Okay, but you skipped over one. You talked about a septic drain system that you put in, and I don't know much about that stuff. So I'm kind of curious what that was like.
Back on the back side of a property, they had dug this out, and they had put in a new septic tank, and they were bringing it in and trying to connect it to the old outlet from the house. And so you have to get down in the hole.
Right. I mean, this is a big hole.
Yeah, you got a nice big hole. You get to climb down in there. And if you've never used a balloon bladder before, these things are great.
Those are funny looking, too.
Yeah. You stuff this thing in there, you pump it up, and now no water comes out of the house. So
You'll have to explain what that looks like.
It's just a little black balloon, little heavy plastic.
Right.
And it kind of looks like you took two plungers and stuck them together.
There we go. Okay, yeah. Plumbing tools are usually very primal looking. So.
They're a lot of fun, though.
But we're going to hear more about that. And then, of course, we got to hear about Fence Post Overkill, which is the new name for my band, by the way. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Would you please come help me tamp this down? It's a job that requires 2 men.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Speaking of a job that requires 2 men, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. 2 men, or I don't know what. Max, well, 3 men. I don't know.
You're great.
I was like
2 men and a max.
There you go. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go digital. Go check us out over on X. I guess the cameras are on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, or X page over there. And you can see what's going on, but you could also watch us on Facebook. Go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and watch the show there. And you can scroll through and watch other shows, too, as well. So, and then while you're on Tool Talk, let me back up. While you're on Facebook, go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there, including the one I literally finished 5 seconds before we went on the air. That's why I sounded distracted, Allan. I posted something really, I find it really funny. People glancing at it will go, what's the big deal? Until you realize
looking,
what it is.
Right, until you start looking.
And it's I don't know. I do not envy your job this week. So we're in the middle of hearing about Allan's week in review. We're going to get back to that in a minute, and you'll be able to learn what this monster was. Before we do that, though, let's talk about our good buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration.
Absolutely.
I'm going to start calling him the elusive. The guy's always working. The guy's always doing something. I mean, Larry, pace yourself out there. I mean, I know we need HVAC, but the guy needs to take a day off. Yeah. So, but if you have any HVAC needs, boy, you cannot do better than Brown Refrigeration. They are sort of a bedrock. You know, there's some companies, they're just rock solid. I mean, they have a strong history. They have a great business culture, and they are always dealing with they're always evolving and keeping up with the latest technology. And it's not just about conditioning the air, giving now we're going to start thinking about our heating system, of course. But today's one of those days I could see where you might have had the heater on this morning, and maybe by this afternoon you'll have the AC on. So, but it's also about properly humidifying the air, right? Isn't that what a HVAC system does?
That is the big secret to it. Everybody thinks it's either hot or cold. Mm-hmm. The real secret is finding that nice 50% humidity level that we, our little wonderful selves, find comfortable.
Right.
And again, one of the most shocking facts Larry ever gave us was the sheer volume of water that an air conditioner takes out of your home every day.
As I recall, in a home about my size, he said it could be 60 gallons of water.
50 to 60 gallons of water a day.
So imagine if that's not happening correctly in your home. What is going on in there with all that humidity? So, and it's a whole system. It's not just that. Sometimes we think of the HVAC system as our thermostat, that thing in the attic and the thing out back. Well, you know what? It's also your ductwork. Your ductwork has to not only be clean, which that's a very important thing. That's a good thing to get done once a year, but also configured correctly. I've been on jobs. In fact, I had Brown Refrigeration come out to correct the job where the ductwork was not configured correctly. So one room was freezing, the other room was, so it's an entire system. It's very finely tuned, and you need to stay on top of it. And as we said, there's nobody better than Brown Refrigeration. It's a relationship. You're going to want to have them out to visit every, 6 months or a year just to stay on top of it. And it pays for itself when it's functioning properly. They always deal with Train, which is always state of the art. So just great people, great business culture, as we said. Get in touch with Brown Refrigeration. You can call them directly at 901-362-1881, or go to their website, brownref.com. All right, so if you're just tuning in, we were in the middle of Allan's Week in Review. And if you're new to Tool Talk Radio, the reason we call it that is because, Allan, it's kind of fun. You never really do the same work twice in any given week. You could be wrestling raccoons or getting them out of it, to installing toilets, to building a room addition, to whatever. There's no... Which I guess makes your life interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It means my truck stays really full all the time.
Yeah, you always have a lot of. But we were talking about the septic tank system.
Right.
That sounds complicated.
All right. So the way this generally works, for those of you that live out in the country, y'all know exactly how a septic tank works. For those of you in the city, it's a little different animal. So in the city, you have water coming in. You've got a high-pressure water connection, and that comes into your house and generally over by your hot water tank somewhere.
Okay.
And you get a cold input and a hot, and then you have an input that goes into the whatever heats your water. Then you have two water systems, hot and cold, run around the house. Well, it all has to leave somehow.
It's got to go somewhere.
So it goes down the sink, it goes down the tub, or it goes down the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And getting out of the house is a lot of fun.
Right.
But it's got to go somewhere. If you're in the city, you give it back to the city.
Yeah, it goes down a pipe and it leaves.
And hopefully goes away. Right? Well, out in the country, the city ain't there.
No.
So now you have the septic tank. And what the septic tank is just a huge receptacle in the ground with feeder arms that go out under the ground around you.
Yeah.
So all of your waste goes into the septic tank, the microbes do their job, and the liquid moves out across the yard. Thus, the name of a very funny book that was The Grass is Always Greener Over the Septic Tank.
I was about to say, because I bet the lawn actually likes that, right?
Oh, well, yeah. The plants love you with the septic tank.
One thing, though, how deep is that? How deep are we talking? Because a septic, obviously it's got to go in there pretty deep.
Well,
because you don't
depending
want
on
it
the
to have
side
a
of the receptacle,
sinkhole,
well, no, but you also now these days have to have a surface access.
Okay.
That's what I was just about to ask, is if there a surface access hatch, because it seems like it'd be pretty inconvenient. You have had to constantly keep digging for it.
Yeah, well, and welcome to problems of the past and why this place now has to have a new septic tank. Is before, if something went wrong with the septic tank, you had to go get, the guy with the backhoe to come out and dig it up for you. Well, now they have kind of a big portal on the top of it that keeps everything in, but you get access to it.
They have to be emptied. You have that, right?
Every few years they have to more or less be sludge cleaned.
Oh,
so they need to get the non-digestibles out of the bottom of the septic tank every so often.
And if you're enjoying your breakfast right now, sorry about that.
Well,
but,
we're not getting too graphic here.
Okay. Yeah.
But the big thing is they had brought this, they put in the septic tank and they brought the pipes over, and the septic company is done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the guy working on the house, he brought the pipe out the back and he's done.
Right.
And they didn't line up.
Oh, what do you mean they didn't line up?
They're off by like 24
so they're
inches.
crooked. They're not short. They're okay. I don't know what that was, Max.
So
it's weird.
Here we go. So now we got to get this kind of S curve into this.
Wait. Okay. Hang on. You're okay.
So
these have S bends as well.
Yeah. So
okay,
this one does, because it came out of the house. We move over about 24 inches, and now we got to jump this gap.
Is there an advantage to having an S bend versus a U bend? Because I know U bends are good for other types of plumbing systems.
Well, in this case, this is all we need, because all we need to do is get to here. But this is also a great place to add a clean out. Since, we're here, we're right next to the house.
Yeah.
And this is where do not use a T, use a Y. And when we're talking in plumbing, when you're walking through like your big box store and you see like T fittings, and they're nice and square and straight, they look fabulous. And then you see the weird one that's got these curves in it. Those are your Y fittings.
We should explain. This is a PVC type of thing. It's a pipe. It's made so that when it does clog up, you can run one of those snakes
Exactly.
in there. And obviously making a 90-degree turn is a lot harder than making a, what is that, like a 45
Yeah,
degree
well, a
or something?
90-degree turn also can go the wrong way.
Right, yeah.
And go wander in and come popping out of toilet somewhere.
Or does not even make the turn. You're just
Or
going to keep
just
trying
sit
to...
there and grind until you damage the pipe.
Right.
So the Y mountings give it that nice gentle curve so you can guide something so that you can go whichever direction you need and make sure that you can clean out your drain.
Right.
So we've got the clean out there. We've also got a gas release. It was a good opportunity to put a lot of stuff in a small area and get it done.
And it sounds funny, and it sounds, but you're also dealing with dangerous, flammable gases.
Yeah, you do not want
you don't
something
play
to
games
go
with
wrong
this, so,
here, right? So,
and the system needs to more or less breathe, right? I mean, there does need to be.
Well,
the
when you're
ability
doing
to-
this, Max, you mentioned the great stink of the 18th century over in London, and that's because they were putting in sewers and didn't ventilate them properly.
And
Yeah.
wasn't it also due to the shallow nature of the water back then?
Oh yeah. They had a lot of problems, but this is why in the center of your home you have a pipe that goes to nowhere,
Right.
but it is coming directly out of your sewer drain so that you don't fluid block, aka don't create a vacuum anywhere so the
Yeah.
fluid can't flow. You get air so the air can help push things through. And the other thing is if there are any gases released, they are now released above your house.
Right. You don't want to
Not
be in that
your
middle,
house,
right.
not on your house, but above
Not
your
in
house.
front of your house,
So
above the house. so-
exactly. So this was an opportunity to make sure a lot of things were properly done. Got it in, got it installed, got it buried. Oh, thank goodness that's done.
So more or less, you were retrofitting this thing.
Yes.
Okay. So you were more or less updating a septic tank.
Yeah,
So-
that's what we had to do. Had to get it in, get it done, and I'm happy to report water has been run through it, and it is fabulous. So,
Yeah.
Is
Who
it,
wants
hard, is it harder to modernize a system that's old, or is it harder to put in a modern system?
Well,
That's a good question.
You're not really going to modernize one because you're going to take the old septic system out and put in a new one.
Okay.
So it's a tank. So once that tank begins to fail, there's really not much you can do about it.
All right. We have one more thing to get to with Allan's Week in Review about fence posts, which is really funny. And I already posted the picture, so
Ooh,
we got to
awesome.
follow up. Also, we want to remind you it's International Badger Day and it's Croctober, where they're now releasing cowboy boot Crocs. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You've got paper and you've got paint. A deadly combination! Let me show you something.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I want him working on our septic system.
I don't know. Again, I got to call foul. I don't know what kind of paint he's using. Is he using paint from like the 1840s
the
or something?
50s, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That guy really needs to chill out. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go digital today. You can watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page, which I don't know what it is. You can just probably get on X and scroll through it, and you'll find it. Or if you want to go to Facebook, you can watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and see what it looks like in here. I guess it's the same feed, right? Either one will work. So whichever platform you prefer. And then while you're on Facebook, scoot on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page. I've made a couple of posts. I'm going to make another one at the top of the hour. I didn't have time to put it up. But we also want to remind you we have some listener participation, we could say. I'm amazed that we haven't heard from Agent 732 yet. But let's see. It's International Badger Day, and we were talking earlier about don't tangle with badgers.
Yeah, don't.
They might
Leave
look
'em alone.
fun. They might look like a great pet, but they're not right now.
No,
so
no.
you've had personal experience with badgers.
They're adorable, but keep in mind, it's a weasel.
You said, Max, they're like one of the most fearless animals, right?
According to Guinness Book of World Records.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they don't back down.
Yeah, so if you've had any badger encounters, we'd love to know about it. What if a badger gets in your house? Who wins the battle between a badger and a Doberman Pinscher?
The badger.
Really?
Easily.
Whoa. Okay.
Easily.
All right. So if you've got any badger stories, we also want to remind you that apparently this is the month of Croctober, and Croc has really gone over the line, in my opinion, and they've released Croc cowboy boots.
Yeah.
And we would love to know if you'd want to wear one of those. Like I said, I can picture the big tough guy showing up at the fire, around the fire in the middle of Wyoming or something.
Yeah.
Would he be wearing these? I don't know, but probably cute for your kids. And also we want to hear about any interesting high-impact home improvements that you've done. That's out there on the table. But, Allan, before the break, we were wrapping up our discussion of your week in review, and you had a fence post removal for the ages. I was shocked when I saw this. So.
Well, we've talked about the repairing fences numerous times on the show because let's face it.
Well, everybody has to.
We're
at
in
some
the
point.
Mid-South. There's a lot of boxwood fences, and periodically you got to replace boards, you got to replace posts, you got to get in there, and so this is one of these. I walk over and look at the job, and every form of repair has already been done.
Oh, so this fence has been through
It's been repaired numerous times. So repair number one was, scoot over a foot, put in another post.
Right.
Oh, that one has now rotted through the bottom.
Yeah.
So they had gone back to the original post and driven in a metal post and had screwed both posts together so that it was a semi-rigid post. But enough wind and everything had loosened that.
Yeah, if you're out there and you do that, I hate when people do that.
So
taking that apart, or it doesn't work either. So I don't know.
So
that's one of my. You triggered me on that one. So,
so a post when it fails, really, honestly, it's bite the bullet, get the shovel. You're putting in another post. So,
dig out the concrete, in other words.
So here we go. And I was kind of like, all right, I'm just going to dig this out real quick and get this done. Because, it rained here a day or so ago, and the soil's not soaked, but it's loose. So digging wasn't bad.
If the ground is soft, you can get these out fairly easy.
Well, I thought you could. And that's kind of what I get for doing my own thinking. Because I'm standing there and I'm looking at a 4x4 pressure-treated post.
Yeah.
5 foot out of the ground.
Okay.
Well installed. The average person does this. They nip off the top of it with a Sawzall and off they go.
It's level. It's sitting.
It's fabulous. So it's 5 foot. So I, get my little, I have a new shovel that I just bought, and it's a root cutter.
So is it sharp on the edge or something?
It is. The shovel is so interesting that the work crew I work with gave it a name.
Of course.
They named it for me.
Yeah, what's it called?
They named it Dexter.
Okay. Well, is it after the murderer, Dexter?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say. Does he bury his victims? I don't really know what he does.
I don't know, but this shovel is, if you've never seen a root cutter shovel, it is a bad news looking shovel.
Okay. Yeah, because digging through roots is not easy.
And you will see a picture of it in Joe's post there. So here we go. So I start digging, and the digging is going fast and easy, not a problem. So I get down about 18 inches or so. So I reach over and get my crowbar and whack it up against the concrete and put a board on the ground and start. And I mean, I'm not a small guy. I'm not a small guy. And I even jumped up on top of this thing and nothing budged.
We should say, too, because people would say, well, what's the magic thing about 18 inches? Well, in a normal scenario, 18 inches is the frost line here. I thought it was 16, but whatever. It's 16 or 18 inches.
Well, for me, rule of thumb, if it's 18, again, there's no law against overbuilding.
And if you're wondering what the frost line is, tell me if my science is correct here. You basically, because the frost line in Chicago, as I recall, was about 24 inches. It's a matter of the ground freezes, it contracts against the post, and it could lift it up. So what you want to do
literally push it out of the ground
is get below that so it's anchored in, and it's not going to just because you've seen fences where they rise up and then they tip over. So yeah. Well, so you thought, well, a normal person made it about 18 inches.
I'll just get the crowbar and wedge it up the next couple of inches and get it out of the way. And no, it didn't even twitch. So now I go get the post hole digger. So I just start right next to it and start going down. And I get down about 2 foot. 2 foot. I mean,
You're like, surely there's an end to this.
I am way down here. So I'm like, all right, now it's got to come out. So I grab the little metal post in the center of it, and I'm wiggling and shaking and nothing. I mean, it won't even twitch.
And what words were coming out of your mouth at that
None
point?
at this point. It was just morbid curiosity at this point. I was like, okay, this thing is coming out.
So you reached an interesting point because we've been on these situations where, okay, you're furious. You're like, you're cursing the people that did this 50 years ago. And then you transition into, okay, now it's just scientific curiosity.
Now I got to know.
Now it's uncovering the mystery.
What did you do?
Right.
What did
and now
you
you're almost
do
hoping
down
for
here?
the worst.
Now I want to see what's down there, right? So I keep digging and digging and digging and digging. I mean, I am down almost. I'm about to lose the post hole digger in the hole.
I was gonna say. I mean,
I
how
am
long
down
is the handle
almost
on this
3
thing?
feet on this thing. I got a 5-foot handle on this post hole digger. So I mean, I've got some reach, but I am like, I am honestly 3 feet in the ground, and I hear the ka-tink, ka-tink, ka-tink of some concrete way down in the bottom of this.
Finally.
So I finally kind of edge around it, and I wiggle it, and finally this thing wiggles.
Yeah.
So, now I'm over there with the crowbar, busting it loose. I'm digging around it, and I finally extract this thing. And I have to know how a dentist for an elephant feels.
Oh, gosh.
Because I start pulling this thing out, and it just keeps coming. And I was kind of like, well, that's one
Probably
way to
weighed
put
a ton, too.
Oh, it was not light.
Yeah.
I was dying laughing, though, at that moment because my brain goes, well, how do you make an 8-foot post 5 foot tall?
There you go.
Bury it 3 feet in the ground.
Now that you said this, I was trying to figure out, okay, why would you do this? Why would you possibly do it? I have an answer now. Somebody showed up to the job site to build a fence, and either their saw broke or they didn't have anything to cut the top of the post off of. And they said, you know what, I'm just going to bury it.
I'm going to go one further.
Okay.
They had a commercial post hole digger.
Oh, and they were having fun with that thing. So.
And the thing goes 36 inches. The commercial one for like really big post. So I'm going, they had a 36-inch auger for this bad boy and went, and I could picture me.
Hey, guys, watch
35 years ago going, wait till they dig this up. There you go. You want a post that's not going to go anywhere in wet soil? Let's put this baby in 36 inches deep.
Maybe, okay, is there any part of the world where the frost line is 36 inches? Maybe these guys were from Siberia or something.
Well,
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to make sense. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, in one of our dear listening countries out there on the internet, dear Norway, of their frost line, they don't have a frost line. They have a thaw line as to how far down the ground will actually thaw, because part of their world is built on permafrost.
Interesting.
That never melts.
Huh.
So they have the exact opposite problem.
So you had some Norwegian carpenters with a post hole digger.
But I mean, when I finally got this thing out of there, I'm like, oh my Lord.
Okay.
And guess how I installed the new one? I just dropped it in the hole.
There you go. All right. What a week. Holy smoke. What an epic week in review. All right, well, hour one of Tool Talk Radio is in the can, but we have quite a bit to get to, including our great moments in building history, celebrating the rebuilding of Chicago after the Great Fire of 1871.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to watch the show. You can head over to X. And what is it called when you send a X now? Is it because I mean, it used to be you send a tweet, but what is it?
You're on X, but that sounds like it's a drug implication.
I guess it shows how much I use X, but
I have no idea.
Okay, an exhalation or something. So head on over to X. You can go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar's X page and watch the show. Also, if you want to watch the show on Facebook, head on over to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and see what it looks like. It's basically audio and video. You get to see what it looks like here in the studio. And then after you've done that, head on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made, including I've tracked down a picture of those Crocs. If you're just tuning in, you should know that this is Croctober, and Crocs have, in my opinion, in a crime against nature, created Croc cowboy boots. The only people I could see wearing this are like little kids. If you're an adult and you show up in one of these, I would love to see what the reaction is. I don't know. I don't like Crocs.
I got to try them on.
Okay.
That's all I got to say.
I know Crocs are popular, and I'm probably shooting myself in the foot in case they ever want to sponsor the show.
Yeah, literally. Yeah,
but they're definitely different. I will say they're kind of cool looking. So, but that's out there on the table. If you think you'd wear Croc cowboy boots, we'd love to hear from you. And also, we want to remind you that today is it's a belated International Badger Day. And, how are you celebrating?
Be kind to a badger.
Yeah, from a distance, right? Those babies babies are dangerous. So, well, we got a lot to get to in this hour. Shortly, we're gonna, in our great moments in building history, we're not celebrating the destruction, but we are going to talk about the rebuilding of Chicago after the Great Fire of 1871. Because I mean, that was it was a pretty epic construction project. Let's put it that way. So, but before we do that, we've got to get to our must-have item of the week, and I'm holding this up here for the camera. There we go, Max. Yes. Okay, I wondered. I have to be honest, Allan. I had to Google what these are called.
Well, they're surgical forceps.
Well, you could call them that, but I'm holding them up to the camera, so if you're watching the show, tell people what I'm holding up.
Well, you are looking at an ergonomic pair of needle nose pliers with wire strippers.
Okay, the name I found was angled head long nose pliers.
Yeah.
So whatever. These are I'm sure most people know what needle nose pliers look like. This is basically almost double the length of a normal one. And if you imagine a handle that's twice the length of a normal one, and then it angles off.
Yep. It has that nice ergonomic 45-degree angle to it.
This one's got little holes for stripping wire. So like you score the wire, then you pull it out. And full disclosure, I'm going to admit to something. I just bought these yesterday.
Right.
Because I've got needle nose pliers. I've got other, vice grips and stuff. I bought this because my son's radiator hose, he's got a radiator hose that's kind of hard to get to, and so I'm going to have to reach through the engine to get it. It's probably like a $10 rubber hose, but getting to it's going to require like an hour of moving things. So I bought these because this is going to give me a good, 7 or 8 inches extra of reach, and you can get to the I'm a big fan. It does look like in a pinch you could remove somebody's teeth with these. Like if it like that movie Castaway where they
or that scene where Ron Swanson pulled out his tooth.
Right. I mean, if you want to start your own home dentistry service or something. These things are really cool because you get a really solid grip on the item without having to get right up next to it.
Okay, well, now, to flip the script on you slightly, I have had a pair of those for about 25 years, pulling network and coax cable.
Oh,
because if you think about it, trying to use a pair of pliers with your hands sideways, reaching back through a wall, through conduit, and that kind of stuff is actually very difficult to have any grip. That allows you to go straight through like a pistol grip. So you've got all the strength of your hand, so you can get all the way back up in there and grab that little piece sticking out of the wall and tow.
Well, you know what else is interesting? It's funny because now that you're saying it, it does look like a pistol. It would fit right in one of your holsters.
It does.
On your tool belt.
As a matter of fact.
But what I'm thinking of now, especially with the job I've got to do on this with reaching it, because, working on cars, it's hard to even see. Well, this is going to give me, I'll be able to open it and I'll have a clear view right over the top. It's not, because if you have needle nose, your hand would be blocking the view. So this gives you visibility. I mean, this thing was, I don't know, $19.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely get some use out of it. It feels to me, too, that it's got a much stronger grip. Like I should be able to really get a hold of something.
It's because of the position of your hand.
Right.
Because you've now got that pistol grip type action with the clamp down of it makes a huge difference when you're doing something at a distance.
Right.
Where you need, and I'm going to call it towing strength. So let's say like there's a pressure clip. You know, you got a pressure clip
that's what
to get
I've
hold
gotta
of on
get
it.
to, yeah.
You can just kind of reach all the way back up in there, get hold of that pressure clip, go ahead and depress it, and now you can maneuver it down the pipe without the arm twisting and torquing you were going through with a regular pair of needle nose.
And these come in all shapes and sizes. You can get these twice as long as this.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen them where you've got like a curve, the end of the needle nose pliers curves off. It almost looks like I said, almost like a dental instrument, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know how many of these you've got in your arsenal, because I mean, I know you've got a lot more specialized tools than I have as far as that goes. So
I do a lot of weirder stuff.
but it's fun when you have a job, and I'm hoping this is going to do the job for me. But it's great when you have something that's a real challenge. And just that right tool, you spent the $20 or whatever to get it, and it fixes the issue, you know. So it's like I'm looking forward to using this. I don't love working on cars, but I do love saving money. So I'm because I feel like
You'll get your money's worth out of that.
if we were to take this in to get it fixed by a mechanic, I'm sure this would be at least $200 or $300. And so my hope is, you know, for the price of these pliers and for the price of a rubber hose, we're going to be in business. So I'm looking forward to that. So, hey, this is going to be interesting. So, we've got a great moment in building history. I guess we have to talk a little bit about the destruction. You know, we're going to talk about when we come back the Great Chicago Fire. I don't know why they call it great. It was pretty awful, but of 1871. But what we want to celebrate in our great moments in building history is all of the rebuilding that happened. And it's interesting when you visit Chicago, you can really see evidence of the fire and the aftermath, and really, it led to a lot of successful building practices. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The likelihood of you dying violently within the next 5 minutes is 87.61%. You are about to get me killed. We will both die because of your negligence.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I like those odds, to quote Han Solo. And we'll come
Never
or
tell
what does
me the
Kirk
odds.
say? Yeah, never tell me the odds. So, yeah. Yeah, maybe it's Captain Kirk that says I like those. Whatever, who cares? And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to go digital. You can watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar X page, and you can find. I'll get the address. Maybe that is the address. It's an awful long handle if it is, but either way, you can watch the show over on X. And then if you want to scoot on over to Facebook, you can watch the show at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, and you can scroll through and see other shows too as well. Really, that's a digital library. You can go back and watch everything going on at News Talk 98.9 The Roar. Then, while you're on Facebook, scoot on over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made. Speaking of posts, Allan had to remove a 36-inch post, a concrete post, or a wooden post in 36 inches of concrete, which you got your workout this week. So
I did.
In a minute, we are going to get to our great moments in building history. Before we do that, though, we want to talk about our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. He is, he is what we would call the specialist. He specializes in the exterior protection of your home, from roofing to siding to windows and gutters, which all work in a in the right scenario, they all work harmoniously to keep the elements out, basically, and let them, keep them away from your home and going where they're supposed to go. And especially when it comes to the roof, that is really Jay's wheelhouse. It is all about, he's 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau. He's a GAF Master Elite Installer. They install roofing systems, which are they're so well crafted that they offer a lifetime transferable warranty, which is just shocking. When 30 years ago or 40 years ago, if somebody talked about that, would you believe them, Alan?
No,
a lifetime warranty on a roof? And yet, here we are. I mean, that is just unbelievable. It shows the level of quality and sophistication that is, evolved. Also, Jay is a former insurance agent, which is, you're like, well, so what? Well, here's what. If you have any issues with your roof or the exterior of your home, if there's damage, if you have a storm damage or something, you may be covered by your homeowner's insurance, which makes a huge difference in terms of what you're going to be spending on this roof. Plus, you need to know what sort of damage was done. So you can't just look up at your roof and get an accurate read on the health of your roof or the damage. That's why you need an expert consultation. Get Jay over there, and he will, first of all, be able to diagnose what's wrong with the roof and then the path forward. And if you've got a path forward with your homeowner's insurance, boy, that's a huge weight off your shoulders, and it's pretty exciting, when it happens. So, Jay also has 30 lenders at his disposal. If you need financing, you can qualify in minutes. And as we say, he is all about the exterior protection of your home. So if you need gutters or siding or windows installed, he is also the man for that. So that's what happens on a lot of these projects. It starts off as a roofing project, evolves into all these other projects, and it's because of Jay's dynamic personality. He's a great guy. We love working with Jay. He's a good buddy of ours, and he always encourages you to get in touch with him directly. So call him directly at 901-484-5645. Preferably call him in the middle of an exciting football game and interrupt him, or go to his very easy to remember website, BigMRoofingAndRemodeling.com. Okay, whatever. Boy, was that an awful read. I hope Jay wasn't listening. So, all right, Max, let it roll, man.
And now, great moments in building history.
All right. Well, I got a question. You grew up in West Texas, right?
No. Houston, down in southern Texas.
Okay. It changes from conversation to conversation. So
no,
you grew up in Texas.
I lived in West Texas for a while.
Now,
I grew up in South Texas.
Okay, so obviously I grew up in the Chicagoland area. I should be more specific. So we knew all about the Chicago fire. We visited. We went on field trips where they pointed out there's the water tower, there's the whatever. So it was pretty well ingrained into my early upbringing. But I wonder, are people here in the Mid-South as familiar with the Great Fire of Chicago? I mean, it was a pretty big deal when it happened, right?
I think there are going to be more. I think people around the world are probably going to be most familiar with the O'Leary legend.
Well, I'm glad you used the word legend because let's face it. Everybody says, poor, dumb old Mrs. O'Leary. And that's because she had a gas lamp or like an oil lamp sitting on a pile of hay and milking her cow, and the cow kicked it over. Well, we learned that story's been debunked. As a matter of fact, they exonerated her in 1997. Of course, long after she's dead. But
it's kind of.
She said she went to bed and the fire started, and I don't know, who knows, but
so I think we've all heard the legend of the Chicago fire and Mrs. O'Leary's cow.
Right.
Whether it's true or not, I think pretty much everybody around the world has heard something about that. I think the actual, I think with modern forensics, they actually determined that the fire came from the backside of 558 West DeKoven Street.
Okay.
Which I find extremely funny. Do you know what is located at 558 West DeKoven Street?
No.
Today?
What?
the Chicago Fire Department training facility.
Oh, well, I didn't. I had that here in my notes. Yeah, they like back in the I think that was in the 90s. They tore it down, which I can't believe they tore down a historical monument like that. And they put, I guess it's appropriate. Why not put the training facility
I
there?
am totally down with that.
But here's the thing. Before we get on poor Mrs. O'Leary's case, we should say there were several elements that had nothing that were not her fault at all that had to do with why this fire spread so quickly. First of all, we have a drought. It was like they said on October. So we're talking October 8th is when this thing ignited.
Right.
I believe around 9 o'clock at night in 1871. Well, put yourself back in time there. First of all, even the sidewalks were made of wood. The roof was made of a flammable material. The everything is made of wood. It hadn't rained in weeks. It was hot and dry and windy. And
There's no pressurized water.
Right.
There's no sewer system.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, 1871, and 1871 also Chicago was experiencing a dramatic growth.
Yeah.
Because of railways.
Right.
Because
right.
this is where,
it's a hub city,
it literally was the hub city.
And water. They have rivers, water. They have rivers, a lake. It's strategically kind of in the middle of the country. It's sort of,
There's a lot going on.
A lot of expansion.
So the biggest thing to keep in mind is the European style of building at that time was kind of like watching a Lord of the Rings movie. It was kind of like, all right, well, you how many children do you have, Joe? You have
4.
You have 4.
Yeah.
So guess what happens when each one of them gets married?
Yeah.
You just kind of build a house next door, and then you build another house right next door, and another house right next door.
Yeah.
And you kind of keep this little village idea, but everything is really close together.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really have building codes.
No, as we've seen.
We didn't have building inspectors. We didn't have, it was honestly, and we overuse the phrase, but it is the wild, wild west, literally, of building. And the greatest fear people have had through the centuries with these tiny village, close-knit buildings is a fire.
Well, we had the thing about this that surprises me is because history, if you were living in the 1800s, thinking back to the 1600s doesn't seem like that ancient of history. And you think about the Great Fire in London in 1666 and what that did. And so you would think, they did have a fire department with it. It wasn't huge. It was like 17 horse-drawn steam pumpers, it says, 185 firefighters. Well, this is for a city of, let me see, at this point, I think there was like 300,000 people living in Chicago. Well, I don't know.
That's a big city.
That's a big city. And what they were dealing with, too, is within a week before the Great Fire of 1871, there were other fires. These guys were worn out. Their equipment needed update. They were sleep deprived, and we didn't have telephones. You couldn't just call.
Right.
They had I don't even know what the system was. Did you ring bells and you
had the telegraph. You also had runners.
Yeah, it must have been like Paul Revere. You're riding and saying
somebody would,
in the best case scenario, it would still take to me at least 30 minutes or maybe an hour to get to a fire, right? So,
in modern standards, we will tell you 2 minutes or less.
Right.
Is what you really have to respond to a fire while it's controllable.
Before it's time to get out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So all of this, and then all of the drought, the wind. It's already a windy area. That's just ideal for spreading fire. So
over 17,000 structures, a little over 3 miles.
Right, and 100,000 people left homeless. It was, I think a lot of people know the devastation that took place. But, of course, it led to great, building, it led to a lot of good, safe building standards, which, you wonder what would have happened if there wasn't a fire. Sometimes these things are actually,
We learn most from disaster.
Right. So, so we're gonna look at that and talk about the rebuilding efforts of the Great Fire of Chicago in 1871. There were some interesting things that happened afterwards, and that's what we're going to talk about. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
What kind of place is this?
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
If I had a nickel for every time I heard that when the guests walk into the studio, whatever. And we'll come back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. We also invite you to watch the show digitally. You can go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar X page and watch the show there. You can also watch it over on Facebook. Go to the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page and watch the show. And while you're on Facebook, scoot on over to the to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and check out the posts we've made over there. Like the page and share the page. We should also mention, if you're listening to the show digitally, we encourage you to share that, subscribe,
Absolutely,
and give us a 5-star review.
Yeah.
It helps because that's how we wind up reaching other parts of the country and even other parts of the world. It's interesting when you scroll through these platforms, some of the shows that pop up. So, I guess the more reviews you give, the better, the wider the reach, right?
That's
Is that
correct.
How it works?
So,
Okay.
like when you pop over, you're listening to us on a podcast on, let's say, YouTube, the like, subscribe, and the little subscription bell.
Yeah.
These things all have a lot to do with how often you appear in their algorithms.
Yeah.
So it makes us
exactly.
easier to find. So please subscribe.
Absolutely. So, hey, if you're just tuning in to today, we're talking about in great moments in building history. We're not talking about the destruction. We are talking about the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 because this is the anniversary. Tomorrow is the anniversary of when that fire started. But we're talking about all the rebuilding that went into this, but you have to mention the destruction. I do want to say one thing, and Max, I know there was something you want to throw in on this conversation. On an upside though, I did want to say one thing that I learned in my research. I kind of thought this might be the case, but I didn't realize how extensive it was. But immediately after this happened, cities and industries and businesses and around the country really stepped up to try to help rebuild Chicago, because you have to keep in mind 100,000 people were suddenly homeless. The problem that it created as well was all of their papers. Like if you had a paper saying, I own this house, well, it just got burned up in the fire.
Yes.
And there was a lot of people that were displaced because they couldn't even prove that they owned the land. So it was really hugely disruptive. And that also led to new standards in how you store information and things like that. But there's a lot of cities, and even, New York, Cleveland, Buffalo, Milwaukee, St. Louis, even London and Scotland and countries from Europe stepped up to try to help rebuild. It reminds me a little of after September 11th, how people really wanted to do their part and try to help, New York and everything. But Max, you were interested. There was sort of we were talking about all the conditions that helped spread the fire, but there was one that I learned about in this research that I never heard of before.
It was called the Fire Devil.
Whoa.
It's essentially a fire tornado. So you combine the fear factor of a windy tornado with the deadly effects of fire. It would help spread the fire even further because of all the debris that it's spewing around.
Is that caused because of the lake? Because it is windy in Chicago. You get that lake effect wind. But what caused... So... Because I heard it called a fire whirl. A fire tornado is kind of a good description, but...
Well, when you have a fire that size, it creates its own weather.
Oh, my gosh. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
The thermal updraft of, if you picture a fire a mile by a mile, in this case, this was a fire 3 miles by 3 miles.
Right.
I mean, this thing was absolutely massive. It really honestly creates its own weather in effect. So the updraft alone would just be absolutely horrific on this.
Is that similar to how, the sun in its own way creates its own fire weather?
Yes.
It's just essentially a giant fire, like, fire weather, like fire tornadoes, fire hurricanes. It's creepy.
Now that you mention it, that's a good question because, we said, okay, well, this started at night. It started around 9. Okay, but it burned for 2 days. So did the fire tornado, is that more likely in the day or night, or does it matter?
Doesn't make any difference.
Wow.
It's kind of like when like a volcano erupts or something like that. It utterly disrupts the area. So when you have these huge, massive burns of, like, we see on the news with the big wildfires out west.
Right.
And these things cover miles and miles and miles. The problem is they become kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in the fact that they change how the winds blow. They change the humidity level in the surrounding area. They change so much that you're not just fighting a fire, you're fighting a fire area effect.
Right.
I'm not trying to encourage any arsonists listening out there.
Yeah, don't do
But
that.
I am wondering, is there any benefits to a part of land that has been raised by fire?
Well, now you're going to get into a lot of agricultural stuff where we used to burn land off and then the ash would be used to, fertilize. But generally, that is a very ineffective way of doing anything.
Yeah, it seems
you're
like
wasting a lot of material, basically.
This fire tornado, though, it does explain how it would spread. Because, at this point during the fire, I think the efforts were more about just evacuation.
Right.
Because at first, nobody knew, there were fires all the time. They're like, oh, okay. In fact, some people might just watch a fire just, almost as entertainment, which I hate to say, but some
like
people
in
did
Japan.
that. Yeah.
Well, your most dangerous part here are floating cinders.
Oh, right.
Because keep in mind, at the time, we didn't have fireproof shingles. Back then, they
These
were
were actually
using
flammable.
They were using a lot of cut cedar or shake or even thatch, and all of that will go up like literally tinder. So the worst thing in the world is there's a fire a mile away, but let's say it has a big pine tree or something growing next to it, and that goes up. Now, it begins throwing cinders and burning pieces, honestly, for hundreds of feet around it, which is now landing on burnable materials on these roofs. So the worst thing in the world is it creates its own updraft and then creates its own ability to spread.
Right.
Which is why it covered such a large area, but the area that it mostly hit, tragically, was the residential because it was the closest together and there was less masonry.
Sure.
Because it was kind of traditional to build your factory out of more commercial materials or more expensive materials.
Yeah.
You wanted the big thick walls so your machinery wasn't making noise outside or your competitors couldn't see in.
Right.
So the tragedy is this was mostly residential. The big tragedy is most of it was quickly, cheaply, easily built.
Yeah.
Quickly, easily, cheaply burned. But now we're looking at three miles of cleared territory, and now you begin the great rebuild.
That's what we were going to get into, yeah. Because and the other thing you said, 3 square miles. It started raining on October 10th, and you just wonder if it didn't start raining. This thing could have burned for a week.
Yes,
we don't know,
easily.
but yeah. So now we're getting to the rebuilding, and now this is something else I learned in my research. It's funny because I grew up there. I should have known all this, but when you're looking at rebuilding, the first thing you notice is that they changed the materials they're building, and it's funny because when you visit Chicago, you can see we've talked about the brownstone. There are parts of the city where it's in the area where the Great Chicago Fire was, and you're like, okay. They didn't want any more of fires, so you see brick, you see you see stone, and then terracotta, which is what surprised me. They said terracotta roofing became really popular, but I never saw that growing up. So what was that all about?
Well, here you go. Terracotta, again, a more European style of building. Terracotta is basically your clay pots that you plant stuff in.
Right.
Well, it didn't burn. It's basically a ceramic material. It's a baked clay material, and it's heavy. But the big thing is, it doesn't burn.
Right. Yeah.
But we also have another change in technology that comes along because of this vacuum in building.
Right.
So if you were a shopkeeper and your shop burned down, the first thing you did was kind of do what you know how to do. You're going to build it back the way you know how to build it.
Yeah.
But now we have changing property values because, as you said, a lot of people lost their land or left.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, forget it. We're done with Chicago. We're out of here.
Right.
Of abandon the land. Well, now you wind up with kind of a gentrification or rising property values, and steel is coming in.
Okay, because we're talking the late 1800s, and we if you look around the world, we're seeing the Eiffel Tower, we're seeing all these things happening, and now
suddenly
Chicago needs to rebuild, and they're right in the middle of this technological.
So this a 3x3 area basically got rebuilt twice in 20 years.
Right.
So it got rebuilt after the fire. But as the property values were now volatile and now things were changing hands, new companies were coming in, new property owners were coming in, and this gave them the opportunity to build a skyscraper.
Right.
Because the elevator had now kicked in good. We could now get more than 2 or 3 stories up. So your earliest skyscrapers being built in this area would have come in about 15, maybe 10 to 15 years after the fire, and they were going as high as like 8, 10 stories.
Right. It's funny that was a
before.
skyscraper. But yeah, I mean, that's...
So, welcome to timing and a change in technology.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you take a disaster and you use it. You try to build on that and at least turn it into something good. So, I mean, there is a lot of horrible things that can't happen, but what are you going to do? It's it was a tragedy, and you got to try to make the best of it. So, one thing too, they said the Palmer House that they rebuilt by 1873, they had rebuilt it, but they labeled it as the world's only fireproof hotel. I don't know if I totally believe that, but maybe fire resistant.
Well, by their standards then, that was pretty good.
Okay. All right. We'll have some parting thoughts with when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio. Pretty interesting stuff. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Do you know what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated English basement?
I guess I hadn't...
Well, I have a feeling what you are about to go through is punishment enough.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Didn't you eat a butter-based frosting stored in a poorly ventilated English basement on a dare once?
Oh, more than once, I'm afraid.
And it's he was right, what you're about to go through.
Probably builds up your immunity.
Yeah, just, whatever. Just drink some milk afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. I guess we got a couple of texts you're going to read in a second, right, Max? Right?
Yes.
Okay. He getting information out of him is like, okay.
It's like pulling teeth with your pliers.
No kidding. My gosh. Okay. And then also we invite you to watch the show. You can see what it looks like in here to a degree. I mean, it's not a wide lens. You get to see a narrow view of the studios. If you want to watch the show on the News Talk 98.9 The Roar Facebook page, you can check it out there. You can, while you're on Facebook, go over to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and like the show. Like the page, share the page. Check out the posts we've made over there. And if you're on X, you can also watch the show over there at the News Talk 98.9 The Roar X page. So in a minute, we're going to kind of wrap up our discussion about the rebuilding efforts from the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. But, Max, you said a couple of people chimed in on some of the topics we've been discussing today.
Well, Angel said, Fire Tornado, Joe's new band.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like fence post overkill. I feel like that's gritty, but Angel, I'll put that in the consideration.
It's a good one.
Okay.
And then our good buddy William, with all of his stuff that he's going through.
I hope he fixed his floor.
You can only
let
hope.
Us know. So,
And he said there is no such thing as overdoing it. It is additional engineering. And I guess that's pretty apropos for what we're about to discuss with regards to how do you fireproof an entire city that was just had 1/3 of its population scorched out.
Right. Yeah, William, that's a good point, because Allan has often said, and he said it earlier in the show, is there's no such thing as overbuilding. So, well, I guess there kind of there could be. But,
it's called the Baroque era.
Okay. Thanks, William, for chiming in. And William, give us a report. We're curious about how your shop floor is doing, because I know he do it next week, though. We'll run out of time.
But some issues.
So we were talking about basically the rebuilding of Chicago, and we've talked about how there's different technologies and things that came out of that that we want to So,
brick facades. Instead of instead of trying to build a solid stone wall, now you could build a wood frame building. You could frame it out in wood, but you put a stone or a non-flammable facade over it.
Right.
Of terracotta roofs, again, a non-flammable roof, so you're not worried about the cinders. So a lot of things came out of this where people really began to think, wow, I really honestly need to consider fire as a problem. And, even today, we have new standards for fire caulk, not having holes that allow things to, a fire to move through a building, how buildings are built. Have a lot to do with how well can we sprinkle them?
Yeah.
How well can we put something out?
It makes me think with regards to like using wood in a judicious manner, like how you said, putting it as the interior than the exterior is a different type of facade. It makes me think of how that ancient Japanese temple we discussed is made out of wood, yes, but it has such things that it prevents itself from being susceptible to earthquakes and fire because of the tiling that it had. And so it makes me wonder, was there a population back in the day that was in Chicago or that influxed to Chicago that actually had knowledge of Asian architecture?
Well, it's actually more Italian
architecture.
We're going to go the other direction where we had lots of masonry, tiles, villas where they could do the stonework and the brickwork and the masonry.
Right.
So that's where you wind up with so many of what they call revivals.
Yeah.
Where you have different types of building styles that show up. And it's generally because of a reason. You had a flood, you had a fire, you had a disaster, you had an earthquake. So then you go someplace that's already shown you how to survive these things, and you adapt.
It's funny you said this, because now you're making me, I grew up in Chicago.
Right.
I started my I only lived there till I was like 21, but I did start off in carpentry in Chicago. I worked a few years out there before I moved to California. And now you're making me think of this. I was working on a home, and this place had to be 100 I don't know. It was old. It was a really old home. I was in the base, and I saw things that made no sense to me in terms of terracotta.
Right.
And in places you wouldn't think. And now you're making me wonder, they would have been thinking this way after the Great Chicago Fire. I was like, why is there I feel like there was some kind of plate in a wall I saw or something. It was oddly placed. You're tearing a wall out. It's like, why is there a layer of terracotta here?
Because
and now it's making sense to me.
Right. Because it separated this from that.
Right.
So this was the technology of the time, and what didn't burn back then was basically ceramic. Stone, brick, masonry, mortars, that type of thing, which is why you'll see during different time periods, you wind up with these different influences.
Yeah.
Of when wood is really plentiful and cheap, you follow a certain building style, but then something happens and you go, oh, it's exposed to these following problems. It's like the problem of insulation. A hay bale is great insulation, but a hay bale is quite flammable.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? If you're going to build with it, then you've got to mitigate the fire danger by cobbing it or cladding it in something that doesn't burn.
Pretty interesting stuff. I have to imagine if anybody's an architecture student or interested in architecture, they've made trips to Chicago, because there's fewer cities more interesting to study in terms of the the history. You walk around there and you're gonna get a history lesson with that stuff. So I mean, it's pretty fascinating.
Cities like Chicago and Boston,
right,
are just two of the most fascinating because they're built drastically different ways, but they follow similar histories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So also in Chicago, you're also dealing with the fact that Chicago was mostly built over a bog.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't the firmest of ground to build on to start with.
Right.
So, welcome to the challenges that we face today, even here in the Mid-South.
Absolutely. So, well, I don't know if we have too much time left. I do want to talk a little bit about modern safety, fire prevention and things like that. Before we do that, though, sometimes we forget to promote our stuff. So let's shift a little into some shameless self-promotion. What is going on with Dark Oak Media this week?
Dark Oak Media this week, of course, it is Halloween.
No kidding.
So our Haunted New Orleans segment is just going absolutely crazy. But we did post a couple of absolutely adorable shows this week, basically from the Critter Cam at a work site I'm working on. And
you got a Critter Cam now?
Got a little Critter Cam, and you get to see the deer and the birds and stuff carrying on. And with, today's, news is constantly bad all the time. It's just a nice little 10-minute break.
Yeah. And I have to say, there's something about October. In fact, this morning we've said this before. You feel a little more alive in October. It seems like October, you start getting some more comfortable weather. Football, there's all sorts of things happening. If you're a baseball fan and your team's in the playoffs, which mine isn't. Thanks for reminding me, Allan. But October's a cool month, and I mean, so
the food.
You celebrate it.
Oh, the food. I love the food.
Okay, over at darkoakmedia.com. So and Allan, he's got a lot of weird friends in New Orleans too. So
Well, speaking of weird, wanted to let you know we got an interesting text.
Make it quick.
It said from Keith Babb, we renovated a building in Covington that had 6 inches of hay in the ceiling for insulation.
Yes.
All right. Let's save that one. That's a good follow-up.
That is a great
report,
one to start with. Yes.
Yeah, we'll do that next week. So thanks, Keith, for weighing in on that. So real quick, I want to remind people on my end that the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention is coming up November 10th through 12th. We are partnered up with all of the Cumulus stations. All of our sister stations are going to be there. It's a lot of fun. If you're a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, our guest of honor is Jonah Ray. He's the newest host of Mystery Science Theater 3000. If you've never heard of that show, go get on YouTube and watch it. It's a riot.
It's hilarious.
It's a great show. It's a classic, and he's going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're right at the Holiday Inn at the University of Memphis campus, and it's going to be 3 days of nonstop geek activity. Allan will be set up there at the Dark Oak booth, but don't let that deter you. There's going to be video gaming, the Lego Lounge. It's really just a blast. It's a great annual event. We've been doing it for 13 years, and we are purposely the most affordable convention in town too. So check out memphiscfc.com. You can go to the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention Facebook page and get tickets over there. All right, well, Allan, it's time to get out of here. I don't know where the show went. We've got a lot of follow-up reports coming up next week. But as for today, the clock waits for no one. So on behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.